All right. I am really excited today, guys, as we are joined by a New York City real estate super agent. He is in the 0.001% of real estate producers nationwide. Inman called him one of the top 10 most innovative agents in America. People magazine says he makes some of the most inventive video advertisements the world has ever seen. He's a frequent on-air expert on NBC, CNBC, CNN, you name it. There's a lot of people that are seeking out this man's advice, and we're going to do our best to figure out how he's doing all he's doing. Brian Lewis, thank you for being on the show, my man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Brett. You forgot one of the zeros in the zero.
Damn. So point.
I don't even know. You know what that was? I'm part of this men's group. We meet every couple of weeks and we talk. And
sure.
One of the guys, he's a big Goldman guy. He's like, I think I had said like a number 35 or whatever. He goes, you know what? I don't want to know about 35 because I'm going to wonder the 34 other people that I should be hiring that aren't you.
Right.
Like he said, maybe you can figure out the percentage. And it was like, well, it was 0.001. I was like, that's kind of weird. But if I say 1%, that's underselling myself.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, who cares? Like, you know what? A seller really cares more about their success than yours. So it's great if you have success, but if you can't translate that into more money in their pocket with less stress, sellers, they don't care. They don't care.
100%. But it's still, listen, really impressive to get to that tier of agents nationwide. And listen, it's a big reason why people listening to the show are gonna tune in because they want to know how the hell you got there. Because I would doubt that most people listening, are in that tier, yet.
Well, you know what? I don't even know if you ever. I mean, do you aim for that? You just keep doing it over and over and over and trying to get better and better and better and better. It's like people who are runners who try to get the best mile they can ever get. It's a lifelong pursuit. And you just wake up one day and you're like, oh shit, I've been doing this 20 years. So,
right.
And it's like fitness a little bit for me. It's not a fad for the bathing suit. It's more like, it's part of my neuroses. Like get up, get the stuff done, get the mindset going, get the body moving, get my workout in, get my stuff done, go home, put on some real estate drag, get out, hit the street, roll. That's rinse and repeat. And then suddenly someone goes, you're the top 0.00. And you're like, I don't even know. I'm just in my lane, man. Like, okay, cool. Like,
I like that.
That's literally, that's how I do it. And some people are maybe more methodic with it. Some people are maybe saying, look, this is a 10-year plan and I'm going to do this and I'm going to scale. I'm going to kill it. Great. That's your plan. That's cool. So.
No, it sounds like you're totally engulfed in, the process, enjoying the journey. And, maybe if from day one, you weren't like, I'm going to get in that 0.001%. I'm just going to get up and do my thing every day, be the best Brian Lewis I can be.
Literally it. Literally that's what it is. And I think when I got married, that sort of raised the stakes for me because now it wasn't just like selfish ego boy. It was selfish ego boy married.
Right.
And then I was like, I've got bills to pay. And then all of a sudden you have a kid and then you have another kid. That's the best thing ever. But it definitely puts you on a schedule.
100%.
In a way that, I think back when I was a younger agent in 1999. Yeah, I said that. I remember I would wake up at like, 10:30 thinking that was early. And my life, my cycles were different, right? Like you go to the gym at 11. It's just a bunch of unemployed actors, which is what this guy was. And waiters and like, people of the night, I call it, right? Like coming in, the coffee and now when I go, it's like, 7 a.m. and it's Wall Street and this and that. And the people I meet, it's better for my business than
100%.
My fellow bohemian artist types, which I still think are better people to be fair in every way. I trust the artists. I trust them more than anybody. But it's a different cycle and you that kid and that marriage, whatever, that, for me, and everybody has a different path, that really, that raised my game and that put
Yeah.
me on a schedule. And now I'm around, other parents and school people, and you meet people, your business changes. It just
I
changes and throws you for
100%.
life.
It does 100%. There's more
Mm,
stakes. You're not just providing for yourself anymore. You're providing for a family. I just had, my first, a little over a year ago. He's 13 months old right now.
oh, that's amazing.
And it does, man. It totally just changes the way that you look at life, and it changes the way you look at your business for sure. hundred
Right.
percent. And like you said, no more getting up at 10:30. The little guy makes sure I'm up at 5:30, 6 a.m. every morning. So there's no more sleeping in. I don't got to worry about that.
That's so funny. I was telling my group the other day, I said, so they were thinking they could put the open house times in for every home, like a one size fits all in different neighborhoods. I was like, okay, no. Think about it. What time do people in that neighborhood wake up? And if it's a one bedroom, probably they're not on the same schedule we are. Morning might be 11, right?
True.
That might
Very
be
true.
when you wake up. So I said, maybe we gauge our open houses. Now in a neighborhood that is between two parks with 3 and 4 bedrooms, that's going to attract a different crowd, right? So they've been up since 6,
Right.
and 11 a.m. for them is lunch,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's true. I
you
like
can do an
that.
earlier time for them because they'll
I,
be wide eyed by 8 o'clock. They're on the
totally.
third cup of coffee by
That,
then.
that that's pretty smart, actually. I never even thought about that, but for sure, yeah, the one
What time
bedroom
does the
crew.
neighborhood wake up?
Yeah,
Who's your audience?
I love
That
that.
matters.
Know your audience, and we'll
Know
get to
your
that. And we'll
audience.
definitely get to that in a little bit. I want to just talk about your story a little bit, right? A native Virginian, raised in North Carolina and
Hmm.
Georgia. You graduated with a BA from William and Mary, government
Go
and
Tribe.
theater. There you go. And then you set your sights on New York City to train as an actor. I got to know, what did that transition look like from acting into real estate?
Oh, well, it wasn't all easy, to
For
be clear,
sure.
because there were a lot of tears, because I was going through a little bit of a who do I want to be? What do I want to be? So I'll back up a little bit. We moved a lot.
Okay.
I thought it was normal to
Yeah.
have a for sale sign in your yard that you had to pull out and mow around and like weed eat around, like,
Hmm.
and put it back in. I thought that was what everyone did. We
Sure.
moved a lot. My dad he was a great sales guy, like maybe one of the best I've ever seen.
Okay.
And he worked for Sara Lee Corporation and Planters Peanuts and Playtex and all these disparate things. And he was the guy who maybe didn't have the biggest degree, but so he had to hustle more. So he had to chase the job. So we moved around the Southeast quite a bit. And I went to 4 high schools, right? So
No way. Wow.
uh,
That's
I
wild.
didn't know any different, right? I just thought, oh, you move, right? You up and go. It was part of the deal. And went to a lot of, primary and middle schools too. But the longest I lived anywhere besides New York was Charlotte, North Carolina. I still love it to this day. North Carolina is one of the most special states I think I've ever been to,
Yeah.
and good people. But I really loved it. And so I really felt that when they moved us back to Virginia, I really felt it because I was real involved in theater and I had my friends, and you were getting to that age where it wasn't
Mhm.
as easy. So you become a little bit, chameleon is the wrong word, because you're still you and you try to be genuine, but you learn like, oh, last year I was more that guy, and this year I'm going to tap into this guy more, and you kind of learn to play a room, right? The sort of play the room you're in, like the audience. And I went from like an inner city Charlotte school where I was kind of bussed into a multicultural school. It was fantastic, and huge. And then when we moved back to Virginia, it was a rural school. Like tractors were driven to school. I'm not even kidding. And it was a tiny, tiny school. It was like going to that school in Footloose. Remember in Footloose where they couldn't
Sure.
dance? Do you even know
Sure.
that movie?
Yeah, I
Um,
know that one. I know that
yeah, and
one.
it was like culture shock, but the best education. I mean, the Virginia schools were by far, sorry, North Carolina, by far, but it was incredible, the public
Sure.
school there. So, and that sharpened me up. So I went from an A student in North Carolina, suddenly I was a C student in Virginia, and trying hard to keep up with these kids. They were like a grade ahead of me, really. And then suddenly I was in the AP classes, and the long and short of that is that got me into William and Mary. It really, because it's a challenging school academically, but for me, it was like I was among the first people in my family to ever go to college or finish college.
Okay.
So it was kind of a big thing. Where I'm going with all this is I just learned more about people. And although we went to the same type of church, it was a different type of approach. And the same type of school, but a different type of approach, different people. And we were moving a lot. And I got to see my parents in transition. So I have a sympathy and an empathy for anyone going through the process, whether they're moving down the street, across the country, across the world. So
That's super interesting.
Felt an understanding toward that.
So cool.
When I moved to New York in 91, yeah, can you believe it?
1991. That was a year, guys.
That was a year. That was a year. Gen X, y'all.
That was a hell of a year, guys.
Yeah, right. So I moved here in 91 to study with this acting teacher named Uta Hagen. Not really, but I got into her class and I thought that was kind of cool. She was kind of a great thing. She's dead, but she was fantastic. And I got in there and I was like, wow. And then I started doing commercials. Then I started doing off-Broadway plays. And then I started doing readings and little film roles and soap opera, like a week here and a week there and a day player. And I was kind of rolling along.
So it was happening for you.
It was happening. I paid off all my student debt with a McDonald's commercial. I sold Toyota. I like big commercials.
Sure.
I look into the camera and I talk. And if any of you guys were even watching TV in the 90s or even born yet, I probably was on your TV screen.
Oh, I got to look that up. Yeah. The Brian Lewis Toyota ad.
There's a reel.
Is that okay? Good.
Oh, there's a reel. Look into it. I was a Head and Shoulders guy. This was amazing.
Oh man,
this was some serious
situation. I could definitely see you as the after guy in the Head and Shoulders ad.
No, totally.
For sure.
It was so much fun. Payday, like I did volleyball with my shirt on. Like,
all right, so things were going well. I mean, you had a solid trajectory with the acting.
Compared to many of my friends, I did. And when I told them I was going to stop and do something, I was like, "Wait, if you're not going to continue, what hope do we have?"
Right.
And I many of them stayed at it, and many of them now are really household names.
Okay, so, interesting.
And I love that. I love that, but I didn't always. I got jealous. I had to work through it, as I mentioned.
I mean, you're a household name too. You're just a household name in the real estate industry. You know,
whatever.
I mean, we're still tracking down zeros. I think there's still a few out there.
But life is long. You don't know where it's going to go. I still pay my union dues. I got my SAG card.
Oh, I love it. Keep it alive. Keep it alive.
That's all my daughter's at. After I pay for your college, damn it, I'm going to go back on the boards. I'm going to be an old motherfucker.
Keep it alive.
Did I say that on your podcast?
Yeah, 100%. Sure, absolutely. We had Crispin Yaman from Los Angeles who was cursing up a storm last week.
Oh Lord.
So we're just letting it rip at this point.
Let it rip. But so in 1999. Actors strike, Screen Actors Guild strike.
Oh, okay.
So I was carrying bags at a hotel, Four Seasons Hotel, and I did that at the Ritz-Carlton and the Four Seasons and Crown Plaza. I did hotel stuff was my waiter job because they would feed you and you had a uniform and you didn't come home smelling like food. I like that. And I loved hotels and I like that luxury hotel vibe because who would ever think that you could afford to, those were the rich people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I checked in every freaking celebrity from the 90s that you could think of. I remember the Olsen twins. I carried them on my arms.
No way. Yeah. Brian, that's cool, man.
Funny fact, they still weigh the same thing.
You could still
I don't know them. I remember that I was their bellman and I did that. So,
that's wild. That's wild.
President Jimmy Carter, Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, these people, every movie star, Tina Turner, Woody Harrelson, these are people I checked in all the time. These are like, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And, we were kids, all of us. And so we were working night shifts, auditioning during the day, doing little gigs, getting our, doing a soap for a week and getting someone to cover your shifts. And then had a ball. And then at night going out for beers and like rinse and repeat, right?
Sure. Getting
up, hitting the gym at 10 o'clock, go to your audition. Like, it was fun. And, So in 99, an actor strikes. The Screen Actors Guild said, you can't work. And I took that very seriously. A lot of people, well, they sort of kept doing non-union jobs. I just didn't do that. And I went to the Actors Fund, and it's now called the Entertainment Community Fund. And I said, I need to do something. I'm turning 30 in 99. Do the math. And I said, what do I do with my life? And they said, here's a bubble sheet. And remember those bubble sheet? You fill in?
Sure.
So here's a bubble sheet. Fill this in and we'll talk. And so I filled it in, and they're like, you should go to law school. William and Mary, you went to William and Mary, call them, like apply, take your LSATs. And I was like, no. Next question. Next idea. And they were like, real estate? And I was like, huh. Okay.
You're like, that could work. That could work. Yeah.
So they signed me up. I took the class and got my license, and then no one would meet with me, not even one. Corcoran wouldn't take a meeting. Elliman would not take a meeting.
Really?
Brown Harris would not take a meeting. Sotheby's would not take a meeting. And I didn't know what to do. So I was walking my dog one day, and I was going through a breakup. So it was one of those like turning 30, going through a breakup, walking his dog.
Looking for a new career.
When he grows up. And there was this guy walking his dog, and our dogs were doing that thing dogs do. And they smell each other and this and that. And we started talking. His name's John Caraccioli, still a friend to this day, and a freaking great agent, one of the best. And John, and I said, what do you do? He said, well, I was an actor. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. And he said, but now I'm in real estate. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I said, I just got my license and no one will call me. I remember to this day. He goes, can you give me your number? And I'm going to give it to my manager, Michael.
Okay.
And he'll call you. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And he said, I don't know why I'm doing this, because I think you're going to be competition for me. And I was like, because you're a nice guy, please go do it. Please go do it. Please go do it.
Craccioli, please.
Yeah. And he did. And Michael called me, and Michael's probably the best manager in the history of New York real estate.
Okay.
He's a fun guy. He's an intense dude. He's a hard teacher. And he taught me everything I need to know, and then some. I still feel like I don't know an eighth of what he knows. And he's a friend for life. So I was at Halstead from 99 on a little typewriter stand in the downstairs, where I shared a computer with someone in the corner, because I made no money. I was at the bottom of the rung.
Sure.
And I just started growing and doing and learning and growing and learning and doing and And whenever they had some new concept, I'd be like, I'll do it.
Right.
So I came up with this idea. They were like, hey, we have these guys who want to do videos. Anybody would care? And I was like, I like that. I like that. I miss the camera. I want to do it. I have an ego. So I just started doing it. Still working with that crew today. I'm nothing if not loyal, if it works for you. But I wasn't so loyal in 6 years ago when Compass came a calling.
Sure.
I listened to the pitch, Robert Refkin and this and that. And I remember telling them that I was in a really good marriage. And if they wanted me to leave my marriage, they had to go as a new company and prove to me that they weren't a stripper.
Well, listen, I appreciate you giving us the real authentic
that's what I said.
version of what happens.
I wish I'd gone earlier, because nothing ventured, nothing gained. Mm-hmm. And if I had gone day one, I would have had even more rewarding experience. But I did come. It took me a while. I'm not a slow adapter nor a slow changer. I'm just a methodic person.
Sure.
I'm not an impulsive person.
I'm ready. So Refkin had to court you for a while before you were ready.
For sure. And it started with his mom,
jump.
Because I know Ruth for years in the industry. She's fantastic. She kept saying, let me tell you about my son. Let me tell you about my son. I'm like, okay, your son, tell me about your son.
Yeah.
And then finally I met Robert, and I met some of the people, and it was great. It really has been great. And that was sad to leave Halstead. It really was.
Sure.
Because that was a fan-freaking-tastic company. And it's the culture, the people, and they blended with Brown Harris, because it was always the same, two companies under one banner. But good people, really good, solid, good values. I needed a change for me.
For
because it
sure.
had been, 99 to 6 years ago. That was a
Yeah,
long time.
that's a long time, but
It was a long time.
I think that's fair. But I guess I
Yeah.
want to just touch on a little bit more on like the early years at
Mm.
Halstead. It sounds like you didn't necessarily jump into the business with a rocket strapped to your back, like you were top producer from day one.
No.
Did you start on a team? Did you start out doing mostly
No, teams weren't a
rentals?
thing, guys. Teams weren't a thing.
Teams weren't a thing. It was
As a
just
matter of fact, I remember I was one of the originators of the early version of what a team was. I was like, oh, I'll just get a bunch of people. And we didn't know what we were doing. So I knew they did this like in Texas and Georgia. It was a Keller Williams thing.
right.
I kind of watched them and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I tried to do it. What did I call it? I called it Team Lewis. Team Lewis.
Team Lewis has a nice
Yeah.
ring to it. Sounds like an
Yeah.
an American gladiator or something.
That's it. Team Lewis in the corner. We have Team Lewis. And we did it, and then there was the recession, right? Remember that?
Sure.
It hit, and I was like, "Whoa, we kind of don't have a lot going on here. There's no market. Bye." So we kind of they were great. I mean, I loved my group. I loved them. I didn't love managing them, and I still don't. I still like just being the quarterback. I don't know if I like being the coach.
Okay,
to be clear,
for sure.
There are some people that really get off on that, but I have a personality brand. I think, right? It's me. It's like me with my backup dancers, and
right.
But they're great. All of them could be agents on their own and do damn well.
Yeah,
but
you're like Aaron Rodgers. Like, just give me the rock, and I'm going to show up on Sunday, and I'm going to sling it, baby. You're not like, you're not
That's
like
what I like.
Right.
That's what I like.
You're
I
not
love being out showing.
Yeah.
I love to connect. I love to have the asset people want. Who doesn't? And I enjoy that. I enjoy the marketing part of it. I'm good with buyers. Do I love the hunt? Not so much.
Yeah.
There's some people that really excel on that. And I have a wonderful individual named Linda Hahn who works with me. She is so good at that. Oh my gosh. I watch Linda go and I'm like, wow. Like, I want her to be my agent. Like,
yeah.
I don't, sure. I'm good at if you know what you want and I know you're qualified and we're going to have a good time and I'm good at it. But if I had my druthers, I would really be selling. I'd like to have the asset. I like to market it, video it, make a story, produce it. It's like a show, like for making a show. And then I open the theater and then somebody realizes that it's their home. I like that part.
And I'm curious, like, because I know you didn't necessarily come in and do great business in the first year or two. How did you work your way into like the listing side, like the 5, 10, 20, 30, $40 million listings? How did you get to that point? Was it cold calling? Was it just going to events and rubbing elbows with these people? Like, how'd you break into that?
No,
you know,
there's no one way. And I always feel like I haven't found it yet, because some people listening to this will be going, oh my gosh, he does all that. And then some people will be listening going like, I do way more than that. Like, everybody's in their own lane and that's all good. But I still have mountains to climb that I want to climb.
Of course.
Dreams.
Of course. Of course you do. But I think people got to know, like, how did you get to this,
I did some rentals.
Okay.
I mailed after I did a rental in the building and said I just closed, and I think it was in small print that it was a rental, and the lady called me.
Sure.
And she's like, I want to sell my apartment. I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
So I was like, I'm calling my manager right after I get out of here. I got hired by her. Her name is Etta, and she's now a friend for life. And I remember the table that we signed it on. I ended up buying that table from her because it was where my first exclusive got signed. And
that's cool.
Table now.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That's a great story.
So cool, and she's been super loyal, and that's led to a loft sale and some things with her family. But
sure,
I just let people believe what they want to believe, and I did that sale, and I made sure I was really good at it. And I remember I would always put on music, like Moby was popular at the time, and Moby, and I have this vibe. I'm not going to be the broke. I'm going to be like this cool vibe. And it worked. And people jammed on that apartment. I had so much fun, and people loved it. And I've sold that apartment, same one, 3 times now.
Nice.
And but yeah, I just like let that narrative go. And then when I sold for Etta, I mailed out and told people that I had a great sale, my latest sale in the neighborhood. And they didn't know it was my only sale in the neighborhood. And then that led to one, and then I would do another, and I would make them feel good, and they'd tell 10 friends, and like that. That's how my business has been growing, and it still runs like that.
Sure.
It's really sort of a word of mouth and referral. Now I have more bandwidth, so I can do bigger videos and bigger things. And I'm always trying to crack that nut for me and not get bored. And then we send those out. I still do mailers, guys, and I do emails, of course, but I still send a lot saying, I sold in your building, I sold in your neighborhood, and now I have the video and it's QR'd and people can experience it. And having been doing this for so many years, people come up to me sometimes and they say, "Hey, I watch your videos," or when I sell, I'm calling you, like that. Like, that's kind of cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Not all of them do.
Not all of them. Did, but that's smart though, right? Because that video not only used to sell the property, you can maintain that asset and still use it to market.
Oh, for sure. It's
to market yourself.
Content and all that, storytelling, whatever people want to call it. It's just me, like, making little movies, because I'm not on the big screen.
Well,
I'm not on the Broadway.
It's a perfect blend of your previous, life and your current business. It makes perfect sense.
Thank you for saying that. I always have to stop and go, it has to serve the seller. Right. It has to serve them more eyeballs on their home, more money in their pocket. And the byproduct is, to your point, it's an evergreen asset for the most part. And you can use it, because sometimes I'll be in a meeting with a seller in a building or a neighborhood, and I'll like, "Oh, do you mind if I show you this?" And then I'll just send it to them, and they're like, "I had no idea. You do that too?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a lot of brokers will charge you exactly the same commission I do, and I do that too. And I spend this much money on doing it, and I love doing it. And if it brings you more eyeballs, awesome. Sure. And it brings you more buyers, great." I've never had anyone go, no, don't do that.
Right.
But they're like, "Hey, if you knock yourself out, and if I make more money or get more eyeballs, great, I'll do that."
I love it. I mean, that's the approach I do. Super smart to put the QR code on the mailers. Hey, I've sold in this building before. Check out.
Draw them to the story you want to tell. Right? Yeah. And that's the story I like to tell. Right. And I enjoy telling that story.
Very, very cool. And I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into these like cinematic video tours, that you're so, known for. And, they're just super creative. They're entertaining, guided tours of the apartment, but they're super slick. They're well produced. You obviously put a lot of time into them.
They're not slick for that reason, because I don't have the best suits and the best hair and the best skin. And I think that's my note to everybody, is just start doing it.
Sure.
You're never going to be damn ready. You're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be someone better looking, better styled, better aesthetics, start with your damn iPhone. Like, just play with it. Right. And so slick is something I actually try not to be. And so I understand, I think, why you're using the adjective.
Yeah. I just mean like the production value of it. I don't mean like you're like some like slick, slimy salesman in the video. I just mean like the production.
I hope not.
Yeah. I just mean the production is well done.
Some people want that. Like, there are people who will look at me and be like, "Oh, he's the guy next door telling me this and that." I don't want that. I have a $25 million loft to sell. I want the guy or the beautiful woman or whatever you are. I want a martini and I want a model, and I want this to be a mood piece. Well, that's not, you're getting that. You're not getting that with me. So, but if that's your jam, then you go be that. Because if you can just organically be that. Like, there's a lot of roles to play. Play you.
And I gotta know, and these video tours, if you haven't seen them, you got to check them out. Brian Lewis's YouTube channel is awesome, and he's got a tour for all these properties. Have you ever, sold a property directly off of a contact made from a video tour?
Yeah, the biggest one I ever did. So I'll tell the story to the day I die. I was a second agent, right, on a place that I met a woman in a shared ride, like these shared Uber kind of things, but it was called Via. It was great. They were clean. There were these like vans, and $5 a ride, can beat it. If you had a lot of emails, you could just get in. So she came in, she was with her dog. She's sitting there talking to me, and I put my phone down. I like to talk to people if they want to talk. I'm not like going to Hi, I do real estate. I didn't. That's not me. So we're talking, and I heard her speaking French on the phone. So I started speaking in French about her dog. And I lived in France as a kid as an exchange student. So I was able to, parlez-vous a little bit. And we're just talking about life and her dog. And, oh, you speak French and this and that. Where you headed? And at the end of the conversation, she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I sell real estate." And she goes, "I would love for you to meet my friend." I said, "Well, who's your friend?" I tell you what, give me your number. So we texted and had that. She goes, "I'm going to text you his address, and I really want you to meet him because I really think you're going to connect." I said, "Great." So I get out of the car, I text, and maybe I'd never hear from this woman again. She goes, "His name's this and that, and he lives in Midtown." I was like, "All right." I didn't know what I was going to get, like a walk up, like crazy house or something nice. And she gave me the address, and I called him, and we talked. He goes, "Hey, could you come by later today?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "I'm gonna run home, put on a better suit." Like I was like, "You live at 157 West 57th." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And I looked it up, and it had been on. It had failed at like 50 million, and blah blah blah. And the agent was great. They did. It was a great agent stuck with a bad price.
Sure.
How many of us have been that?
Yes.
We all have.
Hands up in the sky.
Yeah.
Hands up to the sky.
That agent was fine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "What can I do? Dog and pony, what I'm going to do." So I called my assistant at the time, and I said, "Can you run over there and have a presentation book, and meet me in the have a handwritten thank you note ready to go, because we're going to pop it in with the doorman hand delivery after," and all these things. It's little high touches that I would do that I remembered from the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton, and just human etiquette. And so I went in, and I was very nervous, and I met this guy, and he was great. And I immediately decided I wasn't going to get the job. And I decided, well, I'm just going to enjoy this because I'm at this shared ride. Who knows where this is going to go? And he said, "Do you want a glass of wine?" And I was like, "Well, if you're having, I'm having." Because that's my thing. If you're having, I'm having. It's their house. I want them to be comfortable. You want coffee? Great. Let's have coffee. You want bourbon? Great. Let's have bourbon. I don't have to really drink it, but they can think I'm drinking with them.
Yeah, it's a good policy.
So he opens up this wine, and I immediately took a sip, and I was looking at this view, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best wine I can't believe I'm drinking this wine, and this view is amazing. I'm in heaven. I'm not going to get this listing." I just kept drinking because I decided I'm going to at least enjoy this moment.
Sure.
And at the end of it, he said, I want to hire you as my agent. What do you think this would go for? And I told him, and he goes, "Okay, let's do it." And I was like,
"What?"
Wow. So we signed the listing agreement. And
right there, you signed it?
There was some back and forth because there's always an attorney, right, in New York. And this guy is a billionaire for good reason, right?
Sure.
Doesn't get there by accident. And so they have a lot of steps, but super chill guy. And went into overdrive with the video and this and that and the other. And we did some great stuff with that video. I was very proud of it. So if you look it up, it's called 157 West 57th Street. And we closed it. I'm getting to your question. I remember it. You asked me if anybody had ever bought because of the video.
Sure.
So this buyer calls us from Australia, also someone who's made it very well and self-made, just like my guy, self-made. And he said, "My grandson saw this video and told me I need to see it." And I was like, "Oh, great. I saw it. We're flying in. We want to see this property." Okay. They bought it.
No way. That's
$42 million.
That's unbelievable, man. Yes. I mean, that is so cool.
I love it. And they bought it. And they, the woman that I met in the Via.
Sure.
Right? So like, if I had been on my phone and ignoring life and had my headset in listening to tunes, I would never have met her.
Right.
So I feel like if everybody just puts the stuff down for a bit and see who you're around and talking to. I'm not saying opportunistically, because if I had that energy, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But we just were connected as people. She wanted to connect. I wanted to connect. Maybe it was meant to be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe not. But
I mean, I think that's the big takeaway there. I mean, there's a couple takeaways there, but one is, talk to the people in your market, connect with people just for the sake of connecting, not with like the thirsty commission breath, but you're just out there talking to the people in your,
breath.
you're just out, nobody likes commission breath, you're just out there, you're just in the cab connecting with another human being in your market because you like people. And then the other takeaway there is, boy, video marketing so important, especially with these high-end properties. I mean, people are on YouTube and it sets you apart. Every listing has pretty photos, but not every listing has a guided tour with someone actually showing them the finer points of the property.
And some people do it really well, and some people don't like being on camera, then don't be. But I do feel like it's a necessary thing now. The way when I started, you barely had pictures online. Sometimes they didn't have a floor plan. Now it's like you wouldn't be caught dead without pictures, right? And that's how I think video is. And there's going to be something else. I feel like the AI thing is going to be pretty intense.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like there will be I visualize a world where I think it'll be fun too, where we actually have virtual open houses, and if you want to go in the room for real, you pay the broker. I like that.
Ooh, right? I mean, sign me up for that one.
Let's go. Otherwise, I'll be having my AI open house. I'm not talking about like the super holding up a camera like we did during COVID, like where I'm like in a backyard somewhere pretending I'm not, like narrating. Did that too, but I mean, really, like I visualize it somehow. You're going to pay for the connectivity of being in the room yourself to really be there. I don't know. Maybe I like
what
never happen.
I like where your head's at.
The human encounter is what's going to differentiate. So telling the story in video is really the first, maybe the second showing. So when they walk in the room, it's like the third showing. It should be. Right. I feel like that's it.
I like that a lot. And as far as like the YouTube, videos, I got to know, do you just post them to your page organically, or do you put some money behind them and target people specifically with the videos?
Digital ads. We do some digital ads. That's relatively new for us to go into that area.
Sure.
And I drive it always to the video.
Okay.
Always. So when you click mine, it goes to the YouTube, not to my listing page.
Sure.
I figure if they like that, they'll go deeper on their own, and then the URL is in the notes on the YouTube page. But it's where I put all my eggs, not all, but a lot of my eggs are in the video page.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit of a differentiator for me, and I really enjoy it.
I mean, 100%. I mean, talk about just a powerful play in a listing presentation, being able to show the fact that you make these, well-produced video tours of the apartments is probably something most agents are not able to talk about on their pitch.
And that's okay. But they're talking about whatever makes their magic happen, right? Maybe they're just like the best comper in the world. Like they know every property, like Rain Man, like they just know every property in the world.
Sure.
And they're brilliant like that. Then you go that way and you be the stats person. You just go be that star. And if you don't respond to my videos, then guess what? I'm not getting the job. Like if you're like, that guy's insufferable, fine. Because I wake up sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, it's exhausting being me. Really, like literally there are days where I'm like, oh my God, the videos.
My face is everywhere. Oh God, I'm so sick.
I don't mean it like that.
I'm so sick of seeing myself.
It's like I don't know why. My natural set point lately is like, I don't want to do that.
I love it.
But then I start doing it. I didn't want to do this podcast. Like I wanted to be with you.
Yeah.
But like I was just like, and my assistant, he just laughs. He's like, and you always rock it and you always have fun. And I always do because I like to connect.
Yeah, for sure.
This is way more fun than emails. Like emails are soul sucking. And I'm really good at clerical. Like I'm good at that, but I don't like being good at that. Like I do that and then it sucks my soul and then I have no time for anything. I'm just depleted.
Well, I think the fact is you're rarely going to be in the mood to do things like this or make phone calls or like do social things like that.
It's fine. I usually do get more energy from them because their connectivity.
Right. Well, once you start, then you feel the energy.
Oh my gosh.
And you're in the flow.
Oh my gosh. No one's like, I get to do 20 emails today and 20 pages of emails and never talk to a person.
Right.
Hooray.
No.
That to me is death.
I'm totally with you.
And at least with my video guys, because we talk trash, it's a safe space.
Yeah.
We're like brothers. We have fun. We're just like, those guys are like, yeah, I have a couple of crews I work with, and I have to be having fun. And if I'm not, and I don't feel safe, my creativity just goes away.
Totally with you. Totally
I
with you
really
there.
can't. Yeah. And sometimes I get to go on these TV shows, as you mentioned, and they're fun. So I'm doing these little things for NBC and this open house show.
Yeah.
And their crew is great. I mean, it's NBC, for goodness sake.
For sure.
They don't know me as well, and it's not the Brian show, so it's just one day in their bigger show.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can connect in to the camera guy or the director or whatever, it's so much more awesome. But when it feels like, just do that smiley thing, and it's just like, ugh, it feels like work. You know what I mean? Sometimes life, it just feels like a knife through butter, and sometimes it's like dragging bricks up a hill. Like,
for sure. And that's it. Some days you're going to be pumped about doing what you got to do, and other days you're not going to be as pumped about doing it. But the high producers, they do it whether they feel like it or they don't. And I think that kind of separates people. And I got to know, do you ever wake up days and kind of just feel like a resistance to work? Like, I don't want to do all the things I got to do today.
For sure.
And if you do, what do you say to yourself in those moments? Or just how do you fight
your ass up? You got bills to pay.
Is that the line that you say internally?
Look, okay, here's my family, my deep family, my old Virginia family, sure. Old farmers, old, deep down to 1600s, kind of back to Wales, like in England, like old, farmers.
Sure.
And they had to do it every day, every single day. Like, get up, get going.
But is there like an internal dialogue there?
That is. It's in my DNA.
It's in your DNA. Just hard work is in your DNA?
I think so. And there's a lot of the way I get through those days where you're like, oh my God, it's so hard, I don't want to do this. Is usually you do that when your tank is not full.
Right.
And the way I fill my tank on days where it's already depleted is I pull out a notebook and I just start writing. Like it looks like some John Nash crazy man shit. Okay. It's like Beautiful Mind looking vibes. Never look at it. You guys will certify. You'll like put me away. Like, I don't judge the brain. I just let it flow, and I kind of douche out things.
Okay.
And I just write words, whether they're fear, anger, jealous, like even if it's nasty stuff, or if it's just like amazing, butterflies, love, life. Like sometimes it's very that, and even that is like extreme. So it's odd either way. So I just get it all out, get the thing going, and I try to put on some uplifting YouTube-y thing that makes me happy, either music or an old. Lately, I've enjoyed like old interviews, David Letterman. Or Johnny freaking Carson, like old school stuff.
All right.
That of someone like, Frank Sinatra being interviewed by Carson, or name any old interview. I just look at it, and sometimes they make me happy. I don't even know why. And so getting out of my own head and then planning to do something physical with my body, even if I don't feel like it.
Sure.
A stretch, a run, weights, whatever, just to get out of your body. Just because for me, getting out of my mind and letting go is to get into my body a little more, just move rhythms, like just shake it up, like shake it out. And that helps me. And then you find you're on your trajectory, right?
Yeah.
That to me helps.
I think that's powerful, because I think a lot of agents struggle with that, right? The best thing about this business is you're your own boss, but that's also the toughest thing about this business is that you've got to call your own shots. But, I like those takeaways. You take out a pen and journal when you're feeling some resistance, just kind of like free train of thought journaling.
Like literally,
don't judge it.
You might end up writing a great book or a play, or it might look like a crazy man.
Right.
It's okay.
It's okay. So, you just got to get it out and then connect to your body, whether that's a workout, a stretch, or a run. And then you'll just pull something up on YouTube that is going to make you happy and change your state. I think those are 3 really good takeaways for an agent that maybe it's a Wednesday morning. They don't want to do their calls. They don't want to, preview the inventory. Do 1 or 2 or 3 of those things, and it might completely change your state.
It will. And do things you love, like put on stuff you love. the food you love, the people you love, and drop the negativity. There's enough of it. I'm not saying don't be a Luddite. Don't put your head under a rock and pretend the world is just butterflies and roses. But when you're raising little ones, and even if you're not, because there's plenty of people that are plenty successful and never want kids and anything like that, more power to them.
Right, totally cool.
But when we live in a big city, New York, and there's confusing things, and it's a funny time, right? So my kids see things, they hear things on the news, but we focus. It's going to sound very Mr. Rogers, because I got this from Mr. Rogers, who is my teacher. Really, I watched a lot of Mr. Rogers. So
great, great philosopher, really. At the end of the day,
Rogers.
Sure.
And I remember he would say, and I tell my girls this: when you see sirens and you see an accident or you see somebody in pain, look at the people helping and focus on what's good. And I was like, I can do that. Like, I remember that as a kid, I was like, I can do that. And I've had to use that all through the pandemic, raising 2 kids, all through every election ever from now on, all through we've lived through a lot, guys. We're survivors. You're listening to this right now. You lived through a lot. You need to pat yourself on the back. We've been through some stuff that our parents did not have to go through.
For sure.
It's kind of cool.
For sure.
And live to tell the story. But I just try to look for the positive. It doesn't mean denying that things are going on and there's a struggle and this and that. But some people really, their identity is the struggle. And I think if you can put that to good use and change the world, that's amazing. If I take in the struggle too much, it depletes me and it makes me really down. And everything looks dark because I'm training myself only to look at the dark things. So I have to train myself out of that. It doesn't mean denying it. I know people are suffering. I know that there are wars. I know that there's people who don't have commission checks coming in. I know that there are people who don't have food. I'm if nothing else, New York puts you in humanity's face every day.
Absolutely.
Next to you on the subway, next to you on the church pew, next to you on the park bench, if you'll pay attention. But no one ever gets better by joining suffer.
Totally agree.
Sense?
No,
you can't
100%.
suffer enough to help that person. You can thrive enough to help that person. You can help people thrive. And that's my mission, right? Creating worlds where people thrive. That's what my group does. That's what we say we do here. Compass helps everybody find their special place in the world. My group, Brian K. Lewis and Associates, we like to create worlds where people thrive. So that's what we like to do. So we try to put our money where our mouth is. I try to give a little bit of money to the Actors Fund, who paid for my real estate license. The Entertainment Community Fund is their name now. So I try to give that. I try to find a few causes that I like to help. I'm not perfect at that. I could give way more, to be clear. I try to help at a soup kitchen with my kids once in a while. We have to get better at that. Since COVID, we haven't done it once. But we talk about things. We talk about issues. And I always look for the people who are helping. And that helps me with optimism, right? And I don't go through a down market like everything's great.
Right.
I say, oh, this is a challenge, but we're going to find a path because there are people who will be moving. There are people who need help. There are people getting married and having children and people getting divorced and going through changes of life and downsizing and upsizing. So we're going to find it and we're going to help them in every market. I don't care what the interest rate is. I don't care what the economy's like. Movement happens because I moved a lot as a kid. And sometimes interest rates were 14%, my dad said at one point. We were still moving and still buying houses. So there will be people that can use your help. And people want to be around people who are optimistic, productive, and make the experience, dare I say, joyful. Because at the end of the day, what we do is we are middle people. We can't be the source of the drama. We have to be the source of the solution at every turn. We're the conduit that makes things happen. And the minute we stop doing that, the minute we become AI and we just become a cog in a wheel and a robot.
100%. I agree.
Connect with those people.
Connect with people.
Make it human.
And, like you said, people want to be around optimistic, productive people that do their best to make the whole thing joyful. I think if you really just focus on those three pillars, you can make it in this business. I mean, that is really what people are looking for. And I love that tagline, creating worlds where people can thrive. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Trademarked. What? Trademarked.
No, so yeah, no
Don't
one out there.
Don't you dare.
Do not steal it, audience. That's a good one. But no, it really is honestly a pretty powerful tagline. It's inspiring. And just to kind of rewind really quickly, because I know we talked about the source of your business. It didn't sound like it came from like necessarily cold calls or like BNI groups. It sounds like a lot of your business is referral based, word of mouth,
word of mouth, building to building, people to people.
Right.
I tell you, I can't always crack the nut of the friends business. Like I don't get a lot of my friends like asking me to. I have enough. I could use more.
Sure.
But there's some people that really crack the nut of like, oh, their kid's school or this and that and the other. People are surprised. They're like, oh, I know you sold real estate, but my neighbor told me about you. And I'm like, I know that guy. And I'm like, I kind of love the come back around to it. Like
sure.
Of that. I don't want anyone to hire me because they feel like they have to. I don't like that.
No, of course not. But I think it's still incredible that you built the business you've built off of really just kind of word to, mouth referrals from past clients. I got to know, do you have a system for like keeping in touch with them? Do you send like a newsletter? Do you try and reach out every 90 days? Or is it just that you do such a good job selling the property that they never forget you?
Maybe it's a little bit of that, but there's some people that have listed with others. I'm like, oh man, I failed. Look at that. That went on the market and that I sold that to them and they were direct. Damn it.
Right.
Maybe they didn't like me. I don't.
Sure.
Every pot has a different lid. I don't know. I haven't cracked it yet. I
think you've cracked it. It sounds like you've cracked it. Yeah, you're just. It sounds like you have, Brian.
I feel like if you can get in front of me, if I can get in front of you and you see what I do, it kind of builds itself. And that the video might be one avenue. If you respond to that, maybe you're going to say, oh, let me look deeper into that. Oh, I love when I go on a presentation and like, we looked you up and we were impressed with this, and this. And we saw that because I don't have to talk.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, that's so nice of you to do that. And here's how I can make all that work for you. Here's what I can do for you. And that's always, it's got to go back to them, right? It's about them.
Is that what is like your core mindset going into a big listing presentation? Like what points are you trying to hit on? What preparation are you doing for the
like
appointment?
Data. I mean, I have my group help me. They put me on third base with data points, and then we go through it together. And I say, oh, but did you know this contextually? And they'll oh, that's an interesting point. So they put me on third base for my data. They're great at it, and I get the data. We really drill down in the building, in the area. If you're listening to this outside of New York, you're going to be seeing like in the immediate neighborhood on the block and then in town. But hyper local and then a little bit wider and where it fits into it. And what I think the best I always looking for the positive. What are the best features of the home? What are the takeaways? What will make that differentiatorable?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a word in there. It's there.
So I think that's what you have to find. And
sure.
then you find that and you throw fertilizer on that.
Yeah.
Right? Be it the view. That. Sometimes it's obvious what it is, right? It's like, oh my God. But some places aren't as obvious. Like just another white brick building from the 60s. Well, then make it that. Make it the story about these homes don't get the attention they deserve. And here's why I love them.
I like that.
Why were they being built in reaction to the pre-war movement? Why was this the modern era, the era of the automobile and the light and they didn't want the tall ceilings because heating was more expensive now. So they wanted everything lined up with the sun. Like there's a nice narrative there, that mid-century thing. So you got to find the magic in the place, even if it's just a wreck that needs a vision. There's magic in that vision.
Nice.
That's kind of cool.
That's powerful stuff. That's powerful stuff.
Find the narrative. Find the story. Like if you had 5 seconds with someone to tell you why that apartment's great,
right?
Get that part out.
That's
what you want to get out.
I like that. So know the data. Obviously, you've got to know the data, but then find the magic. Know the data and find the differentiable
data that separates them. And sometimes it's nothing they even notice themselves. And I also ask the seller, why did you buy it? Why do you love this? Like, tell me about your experience living here. And sometimes they light up, sometimes they don't. And if they'll entertain you, but you got to play the room you're in, right? Like theater, the audience isn't going for all this great stuff you're giving out. Change it. Don't stay on one course. If you see them glazing over, like, what is he talking about? What do I care? I want to know. I want to make money. What's it worth, and what's your commission? Sometimes you get those people.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what I'm going to do different than everybody else is going to charge you the exact same commission. Are they going to spend $1,200 on this, and this? Are they going to spend $5,000 on that, and that? Do they have a database of this many people and the social network of blah, 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 and a team of people who does nothing but post my YouTubes and make sure that's good? How does that work for you? That will differentiate your property. That will tell a story a different way. And I'm going to charge you the same thing as the person who doesn't even know what that is.
I hope everyone out there is taking notes, man, because there's a lot of good takeaways there from, one of the top listing powerhouses in New York City. And that's, those are some of the mindsets, the pillars that you have to take into these listing presentations.
It's about their needs, right? It's really about their needs. And you have to always come back to what they want.
Brian, dude, good stuff, man. You know what? I really appreciate you carving time out for us, being on Doing Big Things today. I'm sure anyone listening is going to take some stuff away from this and that they can apply to their business directly, and that's going to help them thrive, man. Thank you for being on today, Brian.
Hey, Brett. Thank you. And this is not vodka.
If it is, it's okay. It's 5:09 p.m. So
I wish it were, but I've got to work. So, I can't.
Judgment-free zone. Where can people follow you, keep up with all your amazing content?
So all the socials. I wish I could say it was just one thing, but sometimes it's Brian Keith Lewis. Sometimes it's Brian K. Lewis. But on YouTube, I think it's Brian Keith Lewis. And you can also just go to brianklewis.com. So I have this very bougie website, and you can look at that. You can find me that way. You can find me on all the stuff. You'll find me.
You'll find him. You can't miss this guy.
But if you Google me, it's also my name's kind of common. So there's you mean the Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home? So I have my name on Google Alert. I'm like, oh, look at me when I'm in an article. And I get all these alerts all day long that so-and-so will be laid out at the Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home in Rochester, New York. But I was going to delete the search, screw it. There's too many. But I've decided that every time I get that, it's going to be a reminder that we all going to die. That's happening, right? That's guaranteed. So get busy and do your shit and have fun doing it and don't hurt people.
There it is, guys. Powerful stuff. I like that. The funeral reminder to set on your phone.
Yeah, get them.
I mean, that's a little morbid, but I think it's powerful stuff.
It's weird. But I did the Google search because I wanted to know, oh, look at me mentioned on this news site. And look at this closing. They're bragging about me. I don't even have to brag. And no, it's a funeral home in Rochester where they're laying out Mildred.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, Brian. This was awesome, guys. Everyone out there, I appreciate you being here. If you've got some time today, of course, I would appreciate you leaving us a rating on Spotify or Apple, wherever you are listening. If not, I just appreciate you being here, and I hope you come back next week. And until then, guys, get out there and do big things.